They sat me and my family down and said, "You have a brain tumor." I will never forget sitting in that consultation room. If you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. You can have whatever opportunities you want, but if you're not healthy and you can't do those things, it's nothing. And I was like, okay, I need to put a stop to this because I've been through the hard stuff and I should be celebrating or living now. And I used to feel guilty every time I slowed down. And now it's my favorite thing to do. And it's honestly non-negotiable for me.
Welcome back to the For Her Kind podcast, your go-to space for conversations that go deeper than surface level health. I'm the founder, Dr. Alisa.
And I'm Christina, FHK coach, mom, and your co-host. Whether you're sipping coffee or walking the dog, we're so glad you're here.
Yes, today we're sitting down with a woman who embodies what it means to listen to your body, live with intention, and turn pain into purpose. Hailey, also known as Health with Kaylee online,
Is a holistic coach and a radiant part of our FHK team. She began as a client of Alisa's over 4 years ago, and now is a coach with FHK. Her story isn't just inspiring, it's a masterclass in resilience, intuition, and healing on every level.
From athlete to cancer survivor to coach, she's here to share how chronic illness, emotional health, and movement are all connected and how true healing starts within. Hailey, take the mic.
Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it feels so surreal to be sitting on the other side of this as a coach after being a client with FHK. This space has honestly just meant so much to me and has completely transformed how I've looked at health, fitness, just healing, and to be able to now give back to other women who are in the same place is just, I'm so grateful. So thank you for having me.
We're so excited. It's been really awesome watching your journey, and I'm really glad you wanted to hop on and talk about it. Let's dive into it and go back to your roots for a moment, because I think it's always fun to show the community a little bit about every coach. Where did your fitness journey begin? You were an athlete growing up, and what role did movement play in your early life?
Growing up, I was always super active. I came from a pretty active family. My sister and I both always played sports. We had to choose a summer sport, a winter sport, and stay pretty consistent with it. My parents always wanted us doing something. So it was a very healthy relationship with being active, and it was more my outlet. I did dance in the winter. That was kind of my winter thing. And then summer, I always played soccer. And that was what stuck with me. I loved soccer. I loved the team aspect of it. It gave me a lot of structure, confidence, and identity. Like when you're younger, you fall into different avenues of where you feel comfortable and just kind of finding your own. I played soccer and took that more competitively throughout high school and into university. I was very competitive with myself and driven when it came to sports and schooling in general. So yeah, I was always kind of that girl that was like disciplined, was going to practice, going to the gym. And it was definitely just like my outlet to any time of like stress or just, things weren't going my way. Like I always turned to sports or physical activity. That's kind of where it all began. And it just bled into my university years.
Your discipline definitely translated when you were a client of mine. You were such a joy to coach, and now to be coaching others. Your clients are so fortunate to be learning from one of the best. So thank you for continuing to support this space and this community of women. We're just so happy to have you.
I'm grateful to be part of it.
I love how your family was like, oh, a winter sport and a summer sport. I think that's just a fantastic idea because it just helps you diversify. I didn't grow up playing sports. It's something I wish I did because I feel like it would have made such a big impact in my confidence, in my discipline. Again, I watch girls when they're playing sports. I went to my nephew's soccer game and I was looking at the girls on the other field and like, that is so amazing. They're so lucky. The relationships created with the girls on your teams, traveling around and learning from one another is amazing. So I love to hear that stuff.
Yeah,
The confidence aspect,
sure.
playing sports is something I didn't get the benefits of. My parents put me in soccer when I was like, whenever you can go into soccer, it's like co-ed at the time. I think I told this story. I sat down on the field and pulled nail polish out of my shin guards, and I got everybody else to sit down too. They were like, okay, no sports for Alisa. I wish they given me another chance. It does make such a difference in resiliency. I even notice it just in the clients that I coach with a sports background. For sure. Do you
Mhm.
notice that too?
I personally notice it. You can always tell who's played sports or been part of a team sport. My parents never cared what it was. They're like, as long as you're choosing something that you like and that you're passionate about or like you find fun, then we're happy. Like there's no pressure to do what anything, but just like choose something that you want to do.
For sure. And don't get me wrong, there's no regrets. I'm so happy how I got here and grateful for my journey, but you definitely notice a difference when it comes to life experience that way. Okay, so let's talk about what happened in high school. At 17, everything shifted for you. Do you want to expand on that for us?
Yeah. When I was 17, long story short, I was being followed for having migraines and was constantly getting brain MRIs. And then when I turned 17, I was going in for a follow-up appointment, not thinking honestly anything of it. They sat me and my family down and said, you have a brain tumor. I will never forget sitting in that consultation room. The feeling in all of us was just like numbness. We didn't even know what to feel. So that was at 17. I was diagnosed with brain cancer. I think from that point on, I just had such a fear in the unknown, a fear in my body, such a foreign space, especially at that age. My first question was always like, okay, what next? Can I still do the things I love? Can I still go to school? Can I still have this structure that I've placed on myself? It was a very kind of weird time. And I think it's such a transition too. At 17, you're going through puberty, just trying to live a normal life. You're trying to fit in as a teenager. And then this gets thrown at you and you're like, wait, what? I already feel like I stand out or feel like I'm not finding my mark. And then this is just the icing on the cake for me. That's when I really started to try and control what I could, whether that be my fitness, my food, my appearance. When I started to lean on health from an outside perspective, even though I felt like everything like on the inside was like kind of very volatile and a little bit crumbling, I think that sparked my passion for health and not taking anything for granted, putting your health first. If you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. You can have whatever opportunities you want, but if you're not healthy and you can't do those things, it's nothing. That's kind of the curveball that I was thrown at 17. And from that point on, that's kind of what stopped me from playing soccer for health and safety reasons. And with surgeries and chemotherapy, it wasn't really in the cards. So that's when I found the gym as more of an outlet as opposed to a sport. And that's where it all started.
What was the healing recovery journey? Like what did that all kind of look like?
Yeah. So I've been diagnosed 3 times. The first time I had surgery and chemotherapy to follow. I did chemotherapy for a year and a half. So that was almost 70 weeks. So almost a year and a half post surgery. That was almost 2 years in total that I dealt with that first diagnosis.
Right now you'd be at 19.
Yeah, 19. I was still in university doing it more part-time, like trying to fit it around like appointments, treatments, and all that, just because I felt like that was my constant. If I could keep some normalcy in my life and go about my day, it would distract me. And I do think to some degree that actually did help me. I tried to continue the norm as best as I could, like obviously listening to my body to some degree, but playing within my limits a little bit. But that was 2 years. And then I was diagnosed for a second time. I went for another surgery. And then it was about 6 months after that I went for a follow-up appointment and they realized that it was still there or there was still a piece they were trying to get out. I went for a second surgery and that was all in 2020. And of course, during a pandemic situation as well. So that didn't help matters much, but it was probably in total like 4 years that I was kind of going through this battle of surgeries, chemo, and appointments and follow-ups. It wasn't until about 2021 that I was like in the clear of everything. So yeah, just like 3 to 4 years of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing how that. I can't imagine just so much unknown and fear for
Yeah.
that long.
And at 17, like, do you remember yourself at 17? Like you're getting ready for prom and going to soccer, but
Yeah.
university, and that's your whole life. and you feel like you have so much life ahead of you. And then you got that diagnosis. And I will say, like, you're only 26. I remember when I met you, I was like, wow, I thought you were older, not that you looked older, but you just have so much, you've experienced so much life that you're so mature. So when I met you, I don't know, 3 years ago, I couldn't believe how young you were. And I just remember thinking, wow, she has so much life ahead of her and she's going to accomplish so much. Your story really fascinates me.
I remember talking about that with you.
Yeah.
And just like such a grounded energy.
So I guess so now you've been in the clear and, how have you been managing, coping with stress and just like living your life feeling like you're the healthiest person ever?
I was gonna say, I think like right after I finished my treatments, my surgeries, I was like, okay, I need to be like the healthiest I can be. And I was like really chasing just this holistic wellness. Like I just wanted to be healthy, but I was almost chasing it in the wrong places. It was almost to the point where it was over the top, like very strict routines, overtraining to the max, very clean eating, taking all the supplements, but like I still never felt well. And I think that's like really when I was like, okay, this is like, I'm doing all the things, almost going overboard, but I'm still not like getting to where I want to be.
And what did you feel like when you define you didn't feel well? Like, what did that feel like?
Like I still had a lot of physical symptoms. Like I dealt with like a lot of digestive issues, skin issues, but I also just didn't feel like I could ever get back. I think I was chasing this version of me that I was like, okay, I'm doing all the things I used to do, but why can't I get back to where I was? I do think it wasn't connected to my body. After everything that was going on, I was really trying to overdo it. I was not actually listening to anything. Rest was so not a thing for me. Like I was doing HIIT like up to 9 times a week. Like it was ridiculous. I think back to that now. I'm like, I don't even know how physically I was standing. But I thought that was what wellness or fitness was. I remember trying to constantly chase this version of me that I didn't even know what it was. I was just trying to find something. I think it comes from trying to do what was in my control because everything else, health wise, was not in my control for so long. So I felt like this was the only thing I could control. It wasn't until I dug a little bit deeper and realized that it was to the point of extremes. I think sometimes, especially for women, it can easily get to that point without even realizing it. I didn't even realize it. Like people were talking to me about it. I'm like, no, I'm literally fine. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I have energy, love working out. But if you ask my family, they're like, no, it wasn't fine. So yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie, this whole time I just keep thinking about like, okay, how would I feel as a mom if my son got diagnosed with cancer at 17? How would I cope with it? And as a parent, you're just like, oh, I want to help them in any way possible. What were your parents doing? Were they just like trying to research and find all these alternatives for you when they saw you were kind of taking on your own health journey and maybe almost over obsessing about it? How did they handle that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, my parents were the best. Like I'm so grateful for my parents, my sister, my friends. I had the best support system. Truly, that's what got me to where I am. Because without them, I would be a lost cause, to be honest. They were just so supportive, and anything I was struggling with, I could always lean on them. It's a really close unit, and I'm so grateful for them. When it came to the health side of things, they were honestly in shock as well that anything I said, like, I'm going to do this, they're like, for sure, do it. If you want to do that, then we're happy to support you. No, I think it was more like my mom and my sister. They were like, okay, I think the working out, it's great. We love that for you, but maybe peel it back a little bit. Like, you don't need to go this many times. And I was like, no, I do. And yeah, I have mentors now that are like, do you remember what you were like 5 years ago? And I'm like, unfortunately, yeah, I do, but I've grown.
Do you remember what was like the tipping point that was like, okay, I need to explore some other avenues or some other directions on how to make this more sustainable?
Yeah, I think honestly, it was more like my energy. I would work out in the morning, go to work, come home, work out again. I'd be working out twice a day. I had zero balance. My friends had such a social life. And I remember this being in the summer. We'd do bachelor nights and I was like, I can't I have to go to my workout or whatever it was. And I was like, I've been through so much. And now I don't even have this connection or social space with my friends. What am I living? I'm not even living. So I think that's really what it came down to. I need to put a stop to this because I've been through the hard stuff and I should be celebrating or living now. And my living is at work and in the gym. I feel like there's more to life than just this. I felt consumed by it. Everything I was thinking about was always food or gym. I had no space for fun. I would see people doing fun stuff and I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish that was me. It could be you. But I think that was like my tipping point is I just like went through a summer and I was like, I did nothing. All my friends were out having fun. This was my first summer that I was healthy. So I think that's really what the turning point was for me.
And then did you decide to move to Toronto? Was that part of it? That when we had the conversation?
That was about a year before, I would say, because that's kind of like when I started to slow down and then the weight started to go on. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I was doing everything right. And because I was fit and now I'm like starting to put weight on. But again, it was just my body coming back to what it needed. It just needed that calibration and that slowdown to actually heal. I was 4 or 5 years of being so ill and then right into this extreme of working out. My body had no time to come back to a healthy version of me. So I think it was about a year and a half. And then I was like, okay, I've slowed down. I've done the things and I'm ready to get back into a state of being confident again in my own skin. And that's when I got a job that was remote at the time, but was then going back into office and was in Toronto. And I was like, okay, I need to start this new branch and I just need some change. And that's when I reached out to Alisa. And it all did.
A new chapter. I still remember our first consult call when you were exploring coaching with me. We were having a conversation about what you were doing at the time because you were working with a coach at the time, correct? Or you had just finished with a coach?
I was kind of in and out of coaches. Like I would work with a coach for like a month and then it would be like, okay, I didn't really get the results. I definitely did not have patience and I didn't trust the process. I was working with a few different coaches here and there in terms of the nutrition side. In terms of the physical activity side, I had a few in-person coaches, which were great, but it was more like that nutrition side that I was like, okay, I'm doing the physical stuff, but the food stuff, not so much. But yes, I was kind of here and there working with coaches.
And I remember you saying, I'm only allowed to eat, or the protocol that I'm on only allows me to eat green and yellow vegetables.
Yeah. And at the time I was living with other girls and they were like, I don't know what you're doing over there, but there's more to just green beans and yellow beans. I'm like, I don't think so. Rule says.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't even know.
This is new to me. I've never heard of this diet. Like the green and yellow. This is a new one.
Like there's so many diets out there. People come to me with questions about a specific diet or supplement. And I was like, could be a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a protocol out there somewhere. I'm not sure.
Well, I've also gotten to the point now where I literally stop. Don't get me wrong. I stay on top of research and things like that, but I have stopped exploring new diets. When one comes up, I'm just like, it's just not necessary to even explore it or look into it because we know what works and we know it's simple. It feels good. And that's what we try and enforce with you girls too. There isn't more to do or more to learn when it comes to this. Let this be simple. Yeah. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the holistic field with learning the next best thing, the next best supplement, the next best diet. And then you're just constantly on this hamster wheel. Your goalpost for happiness and achievement is always moving when that's the case. Let's talk about when you moved to Toronto and you were working your sales job. We were a couple years into coaching at this point. You had an amazing transformation. We went for a walk and you had expressed that you just weren't really happy in your sales position and felt that after everything you've been through, you had a lot to give to other people struggling in the health and fitness industry or people trying to improve themselves and get healthier. You were kind of wondering, aside from, I don't know if coaching was necessarily in your field at that point. I think you were discussing like teaching spin class. Is that correct?
I think it was just like anything to get me into the health and fitness space. I used to be a lot more in it before I moved to Toronto, and I was like, I want to get back into it. I feel like that's where my heart is and where it's always been.
Yeah. I remember we were talking about trying to get to the root of your digestive symptoms because you had an amazing transformation. You looked awesome, but the digestive symptoms were not going away, right? And you were eating clean, but it still wasn't going away. So I was using, I was kind of sharing German new medicine or Germanic healing knowledge perspective of your symptoms and how it's an indigestible morsel and all of those things. So we were discussing the German new medicine perspective and the Germanic healing knowledge side of that. It sparked a ton of interest. And then you started looking into it for yourself. You looked into your health history and made the connection between everything you had gone through, your symptoms, your migraines, digestion, of course. And you were like, oh my goodness, like the light bulbs went off and you're like, I need to learn everything about this. Then I need to share it with everyone because yeah. Do you want to kind of just explain in your words and give us your experience when it came to deciding that sales wasn't your place anymore and discovering the next step?
Yeah. I think for me, I've always wanted to help others. I've always loved seeing other people succeed. If I can help them, that's always been a trait of mine. What I've come to learn, like after like 3 cancer diagnoses, like going through my own health journey, I'm like, I'm sure there have to be other people struggling as well and don't speak up or feel like they can relate to anyone because that was me. I just felt like this lonely 17-year-old who didn't know who to turn to in this time. Not that I wanted a pity party by any means. It was more just like at that stage of life, you're just like looking for someone or something relatable. I think that's what I always like turn back to now is I just want to give like other people like the hope in themselves. There is potential and the opportunity to come back from an illness or get through an illness. But yeah, like Lisa said, through all of this, I still had symptoms. I was dealing with like chronic digestive issues. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I've had scopes, every scan in the world. Yes, I've been diagnosed with diverticulitis and IBS, but I feel like there's got to be more. I know people who have this and can still manage on a day-to-day basis. And so that's when Alisa brought up Germanic Healing Knowledge. And I was like, this is really interesting. She explained how symptoms weren't random, how it was all connected to emotional stress or the conflict during a shock that you went through. And I was kind of like sitting there and I was like, yeah, I've definitely been through the shock piece. And I was just ruling things out and I was, oh, maybe this does apply. And that's when I started to like really get curious. And I was like, okay, maybe like my body was actually just like responding to what I've been through and like kind of holding on to that. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is all really adding up. Even like taking it back another layer deeper of like my actual like cancer diagnosis and then I was okay, this is crazy. And everything kind of just started to click. If I can get the knowledge myself and then help one person realize that your body is not broken at all, it is working for you. But there has been something that has stressed it out or caught it off guard. And it's now just trying to respond. I used to be such a germaphobe. If you asked my parents, they were like, oh my God, Hailey would not stop washing her hands, or she always had Purell on her. I was very into no germs, like I'm going to get sick. I think part of that was just due to the chemo and having a compromised immune system, but it was before that too. And now to have such a different perspective on germs or illnesses as a whole, I feel like it's so freeing and I feel so much more at ease. If other people could get a tidbit of this or be open to exploring it, this is what people need to know.
I love your passion. Just imagine having this knowledge when you're given a diagnosis. There's more available to me than what is being offered right in front of me right now. And I can take a deep breath and explore my options and understand what my body is actually responding to. Do you want to go into what you were responding to?
Yeah, like eating digestively is just an indigestible morsel complex or something that you literally could not digest. And mine all started when I was going through chemotherapy and I was like, oh, it's the chemo drugs. They have such a toll on your body. And then it just lingered. When you look at it from this point of view, it's like, yeah, the whole thing that was indigestible was probably my diagnosis or going through the whole medical treatment process. It was for sure something I could not digest. Even to this day, I'm like, if I was to go back, would I have done it differently? It's hard to say, probably, yes, but at that age, it's also very tough. I think it was just the whole entire process that was quite honestly indigestible. Like we were so caught off guard, so shocked. It completely adds up. And until I came to realize that and worked through processing what happened, I always dealt with digestive issues until the last couple of years when I really started to like pinpoint what it was and then like kind of backtrack and realize that I changed my perspective on it and identified what was keeping me stuck, that I would actually have long lasting success. And to this day, it's not like all woo woo. It does work. And there is definitely a place for it if people are open to it.
It's biology.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that you shared that. And I think for the listeners, if they're totally new to this information, is to just, not even take our word for it. Just start to explore if they're having any symptoms they're struggling with. Look back on when the symptoms started, what was happening or what changed in your life before the symptoms showed up. Most symptoms show up when the conflict has resolved or when you're in resolution. But if it's a chronic symptom or it hasn't gone away, then you're constantly being exposed to that initial conflict. So if you're having chronic symptoms and they're continuing to show up for you, then you need to see how you're still giving that initial conflict life. Your thought patterns are typically what we see as the most common way of re-triggering symptoms and keeping them alive.
I have a question because you brought up IBS. And I think for a lot of listeners and a lot of our community, they come to us saying that they have IBS. And I find this a really fascinating topic because IBS is like literally doctors tell people, oh, there's no explanation for it. We can't help you. There's nothing we can do to help you. And you just have to play around with your food and eliminate foods. Sometimes, though, even if you eliminate that food, you still have symptoms. I have a best friend who has suffered from it. So I've been surrounded by it for a long time. And I'm curious what your outlook is on that. And if you've helped any clients who are suffering from IBS and if they've overcome it.
Yeah. I think digestive diagnoses as a whole irritate me a little bit, I'll be honest, just because anyone can be diagnosed with IBS. I had one version of IBS. Your neighbor has another version. There's like such a spectrum, and it all stems down to like something that you cannot process or that is indigestible. IBS, you can either have constipation or it can go the other way where you have diarrhea of the healing cycle you're in. Like if you're conflict active or if you're stuck and cannot process something, then you're going to have constipation. Whereas if you're trying to flush something out, then you're going to be on the other end of the spectrum. That's how it will show up in terms of symptoms. Like Alisa said, it's getting really clear on when it all started, when you got diagnosed or when this all started for you, what was happening right before that, and where in your life did you have a situation that you could not process or digest, or on the other hand, that you did process and like that you're trying to get rid of quickly because of the fact that you were struggling to get through it.
The mindset or the mental aspect of it, what I'm understanding is that it can become a bit of a cycle. You get told you have IBS, and then that's an indigestible morsel where you're like, oh, this is what's wrong with me. Why am I like this? And then it just kind of becomes this cycle and you can't get out of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And anytime you get a diagnosis, that can be a re-triggering, a secondary conflict in itself. And that can also be what keeps you stuck in that cycle. I can't process this, or my body's not strong enough, or whatever it is. Like it might not even be the same symptom. Like you might actually have a secondary, totally different symptom that can also keep you stuck and keep that conflict active, or in that hanging healing is what we call it, where you're kind of in and out of conflict active and healing periods. And like the longer you're in and out of that, like the more severe it gets or the longer your healing will be.
And in terms of food, do you now eat anything and nothing gives you a bloating symptom or a diarrhea symptom, anything like that? Because I know that's often what a lot of clients say. They say, I can't eat this because I have IBS and it makes me bloat.
I did the low FODMAP, no gluten, no dairy, and I got semi relief for sure, but it always came back and the gluten would still be out and I would still be bloating. I'm like, okay, well, what the heck's happening? But now, like, I truly eat anything and everything and my body like does not react to it, or I do not flare, or if I do flare, I know it's because something else is going on. It's not what I just ate or what I just drank.
For an actionable item here, what would you say to the listeners if they have a flare up? What's the first thing that they need to do, and how can they kind of act on it instead of, oh, I need to eliminate all of this food?
The first thing I would say is look at your external environment and what is going on outside.
Your perception of what's going on. Because your body doesn't know the difference between something that's actually hard to digest. For example, food poisoning. If you were to eat something and, you had the ick about it, and that would also be something that would be technically like an indigestible morsel. People who have diarrhea from that. And your body also doesn't know the difference between perceived conflict. So if you mentally were like, okay, I can't digest that, or if it's like an actual physical thing in your stomach. Hailey, do you want to explain the biology of what is going on in an indigestible morsel conflict? So to explain to the listeners why they would have the symptoms that they're having. Like, what is the body trying to do by creating more cells in the stomach?
If you are struggling to digest something, whether that be physically or emotionally, your body is going to respond by creating additional cells to help you digest this. Now, this can work in both ways, where it creates so many cells that you become constipated and cannot process that piece of information or food. Until you do, it's going to create this constipation or this bloating, this gas, this discomfort. And then the second that that heals, or you find clarity or subconsciously heal whatever you've perceived as indigestible, which we do all the time without realizing, that's when you get the other side of things. Now your body's like, okay, we healed it. I'm going to try and flush this out ASAP. And that's when you get the other side of IBS, which is like the diarrhea or the flare-ups, Crohn's, colitis. All of those are just hanging healings of an indigestible morsel conflict.
And the deeper you go on the digestive tract, the deeper or the dirtier the conflict was. That's the term they use in Germanic Healing Knowledge.
So if it's something that can flip overnight, then it was probably like something relatively that you perceived relatively small or light. If it is something that lingers for weeks, then it was clearly a bigger stress or a bigger conflict that your body's like working to get through. In turn, your healing will take a little bit longer. But like Alisa said, it's all due to perception. How Alisa perceives it might be different than how I perceive it, and how you, Christina, perceive it. We will all have different symptoms depending on that. We could all go through the same situation, and I could come out with IBS, you could come out with eczema, and Alisa could have
pain or something. Christina's asking about actionables. And I think it's something to bring attention to is like this information alone, which is accessible to everybody. That's a beautiful thing about it. Understanding how your biology works and how the psyche and the brain and the organs are connected is typically enough to help people relax around their symptoms. There's so much out there about regulating your nervous system. That's great, but we also want different phases of our nervous system to live and survive. Our body wants to shift between day and night rhythms, sympathetic and parasympathetic. That's important for survival. With the best intentions, that's the protocol widely spread in the health and wellness world, is to regulate your nervous system. You can do all the breath work that you want. You can do all the scripting you want. But if you don't understand how you are perceiving a certain situation, then it's not helpful for you. Understanding complex shocks is everything. And that is why we're lucky to have people like Hailey educating others on the stuff. Self-healing is not profitable. If everybody can figure out their own symptoms and have an awareness about them, they don't need to be going to the doctors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I'm no expert in GNM. I'm fascinated by it. I'm always chatting with Alisa about it. I think it's amazing how you two are educating the world about it within our FHK community. It comes up so much, obviously, because Alisa's so passionate about it, but it comes up so much because there becomes a point where so our clients come to us saying, hey, I want to fix my nutrition. I want to fix my training. And then still, it's like they've done that. And still several months later, they're like, okay, I've done everything that I thought is normal and it brings me on track, but I'm still having these symptoms. That's where it gets me so interested, where I'm like, okay, and this is why we preach so much to our clients. Managing your stress and managing your rest is so important for your results as well. As Alisa always says, GNM is still somehow a part of this because it's just life. It's just our biology, right?
Whether you choose to believe in the laws of nature or not, that's totally fine. You have to take what resonates with you, but with love, you're still being effective with them. And then we're talking about immune system, which I kind of want to touch on that because what we're doing, I mean, immune system from the lens of German medicine or GHK is kind of a moot point. There's nothing external to fight. However, when I look at an immune system, I think about my toolbox for mental and physical resiliency and what that looks like. To me, that's my scripting, my workouts, my high nutrient dense nutrition. That's my sleep. That's my time in nature. That's time off of my phone. That's time with my community. So that is something that's how I
perceive it in a different way, right?
So that's how I build up or boost my immune system. And to me, immune system, like I was saying, it's just mental resiliency. When all those things in check for me, I do not get shaken as much. There's more flow in my life because I always use the example, imagine if you hit all your workouts for the week, you had some high quality nutrition versus a week where you slept in, didn't hit the gym, you're eating Uber Eats all week, and maybe you're a little bit hungover, and then you have a fight with your partner. How are you going to respond to the fight with your partner in each scenario? Probably a lot better in the scenario where you've prioritized yourself and taken care of yourself. You'll likely be shaken less. I would even go as far as to say maybe that conflict wouldn't even come up in the first place. You're vibrating at a higher level and you just don't get shaken as much when you're taking care of yourself. And that is where the value is in everything we do. Well, just part of the value of everything that we do within FHK and how it translates. It is boosting your resiliency to life. Some will call it immune system.
Right now, too, like I've been calling myself a little bit of a nomad because I've been British Columbia for the summer and, spending time with my partner and his family and friends, house hopping. And it's been really hard on me, my body and mental health. But I have my pillars that I lean on, strength training, going to the gym. And it's like I've gone to a million different gyms at this point, but I'm going, right? And even though I don't love going to a new gym, getting a new day pass and navigating a new gym, I'm still doing it because it's what grounds me. And that's what's bringing consistency in my life right now when everything else doesn't feel consistent. Still with journaling, I went and bought a new journal at a cute little gift shop here. And of course, having the FHA community is another pillar for me. It helps me stay accountable. All you ladies in my life, that's a huge part.
Community is so important. Also, Christina, you're absolutely killing it. We talked about this in one of the Q&As. Traveling is not biological. Those symptoms come up. It's just like your perception of life. And it's just easier to get shaken a little bit when things come up with travel, just because, people weren't hopping around continent to continent. And so this is different, right? This is just, and it's not that it's bad. It's amazing we get to do this, but it's just when we have this awareness around, why we might be having some digestive issues when our flight's been delayed 3 times and, we're living out of a suitcase, symptoms are going to happen. It's okay. It's part of life. But awareness around why that is happening can definitely downgrade them, which we want to do. We are going super over time. Is there anything you want to add before we hop into the rapid fire?
No, I don't think so. Nothing from my end.
So basically, I'm just going to ask a question and then you're going to answer the first thing that comes to your mind. First thing, your immunity toolbox, mental resiliency toolbox. What's your go-to right now or your favorite right now?
Fresh air.
Love it. Favorite lift in the gym?
Bulgarian split squats. Always.
Go-to Starbucks order?
Right now, iced coffee with almond milk and brown sugar syrup.
A limiting belief that you had to unlearn?
Rest makes you lazy. I used to feel guilty every time I slowed down, and now it's my favorite thing to do, and it's honestly non-negotiable for me. So definitely a limiting belief that I've flipped the script on.
Awesome. What's one thing you wish every woman knew about healing?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think the answer is already within you, and you just need to be open to looking for it, and your body isn't confused. It's actually working for you.
Love that. That's such a powerful shift when you can just trust your body. Or if it is, there's a message there for you. There's wisdom in the symptom or the dysregulation. Hailey, you are such a gift. Favorite FHK memory so far?
Honestly, it happens pretty often, but just seeing clients go from like, I can't do this to I'm so strong, or I've never felt stronger, or like these jeans fit and I can't believe that I can put them back on. That transformation just never gets old. Like just seeing the self-belief in my clients.
Yeah, it's not even the physique. It's like the smile.
Yes,
The thing.
exactly. It's like their picture that they send. And I was like, there's so much more to this than you're letting on. Like I can see the smile behind that.
For sure. Okay, Hailey, you are such a gift. Your story, your strength, and your softness, and your ability to turn pain into purpose. This is what the space is all about. Thank you so much for joining us.
And if you
Yeah.
want to connect with Hailey, you can find her on Instagram at Health with Hailey. You can also message FHK Instagram and say, I want to work with her. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. If you're feeling stuck in your body or your journey, or if you have a friend that is, feel free to share this with them. We appreciate the support. Until next time.
Bye.